Right, so our next presenter is an award-winning author, pediatric occupational therapist, and founder of Playapy. Please welcome Amy Baez.
Hello, well, thank you for having me. So, are you stuck in a cycle of all work and no play? Perhaps you are looking for something to supercharge your life. Well, what if I told you that identifying and embracing your play personality could do just that? Remember when you were a child and play was carefree? Stress and anxiety were not words in your vocabulary? Well, it could be like that for you now. Play actually can do a lot of things for you. It can strengthen your body, it can boost your cognitive skills, it can elevate your mood. And I know you're thinking, who has time for play? Well, what if I told you that you do not need to do anything but change your mindset? So, my name is Amy Baez, and I am an occupational therapist. And usually, when I tell people that, they respond something like this, and my response is something like this. Well, occupational therapy is a medical field, and we help individuals to become more independent in their daily living skills, particularly after an injury due to an illness or perhaps because of developmental delays. Now, I work with children primarily, and so I spend a lot of time working on things like attention span and handwriting, dressing skills, sensory processing, coordination, and things like that. I use play as my superpower with them because I want them to improve these skills in a fun way because I know that's most effective for them. Now, if you think about your experience when you were younger, when you started going to school, things started getting more serious in life. Well, for kids these days, school is becoming super serious, like on steroids, when they're in preschool, right? Even play is eliminated in preschools now. And I see during this COVID crisis how much the effects of play deprivation are affecting children. They're not in their classrooms, they're not on playgrounds, they're not with their friends. And the same thing can happen to us adults as well. Some indications of play deprivation can be increased risk for depression and also addictive behaviors. You might have poor anger management, impulse control, and self regulation. You might even see increased anxiety, fragile relationships. None of these things are good for us. So, what can we do about this? Well, I would suggest that we need to have more play in our lives. And you may be wondering, well, what exactly is defined as play then? And it's not so much what you're doing, it's more about having a playful mindset with whatever it is that you're doing. So I came across these play personalities, and they were in a book called Play, and it's by Dr. Stuart Brown and Christopher Vaughn. And he talks about these 8 play personalities. So I want to introduce them to you and give you some real life examples of some of my favorite Miamians and show you a little bit about what they can look like. Now, before we get started, I just want to let you know that right now it's totally okay to have multiple personalities in this situation, but there may be some that you identify with more than others. So, the first one I want to talk about are artist creators. Now, these are people who seek a lot of joy from making things or creating things. Right. So we often think of artists as this career, but it doesn't have to be. You can make things and not make any money off of them. In fact, a lot of artists don't. But what we want to think about is maybe some famous ones. So we have here the Japanese artist Kusama, but you can also think of something non traditional, more like a Martha Stewart, who likes to make things that are homemade and for the home. Now in Miami, we have Grisel. Now, Griselle is actually a school counselor by day, but you'll catch her painting over 20 murals across Miami as well. And she sometimes brings her dog, Chewy, along with her. Now, Griselle also likes to do home renovations in her house. In fact, she's been working on her kitchen over this past few months. And she also has, as you can see in her artwork, just very fun playfulness and her love for Star Wars. She incorporates her family. So she has a really great time. Is a great example of an artist. You could check out more of her work on her IG account if you like. The next category are collectors. Now, these are obviously people who experience a lot of joy in collecting things. Now, you may be a collector of art, or you may be like my mom and collect every Christmas card that anyone's ever given you. Or you could even be like Jay Leno and have a vintage card collection. If only we could all dream to have that. So my friend Rampy's a Miami native. He was really into Lego, but can get kind of expensive. So he went and started working for them. So now he lives in Denmark and he travels around the world and gets to experience Lego all the time. He even has his own box collection of Lego. If you know anything about that, it's better to keep it sealed because it's more valuable that way. And he also collects stocks and real estate. So the market must be good for Lego jobs. I'm a little bit jealous. All right, next we have competitors. Now, competitors are people who experience a lot of joy from winning, right? Keeping score, achieving goals. So we often see competitors as athletes in our world, like Michael Jordan, maybe Serena Williams, but more regularly, we might see them as people who like to play video games or board games. Now, I can be quite competitive when it comes to some board games. But my friend Giselle, she is someone who can run circles around you in the real game of life. Now, has competed in almost every 5K time race course there is. And although she is shorter than me, I'm sure she can kick my ass. Now, Giselle also loves just the fun of running, right? To her, it's just challenging and a good time. But she also likes crunching numbers at work. She is a fundraiser, special events manager. All right, next we have our directors. Directors are people who enjoy planning things and executing those plans. Sounds like a lot of fun, right? Well, I'm sure it is for Steven Spielberg. Can you imagine how much fun he had creating the world of E.T. and Jurassic Park, just as some examples? Well, I have a friend named Veronica, and she and I met through the Spoken Soul Festival, which she joined up with the production team. She's also the founder of West Kendall Local. So if you've been to some events down south, she has created those for you. But Veronica is not just a director in her professional world, she's also one at home. She's the kind of person that gets shit done. And when she wants to have fun, she creates it for herself. So for her 40th birthday, she decided that she was going to have a prom. And she decided that at that prom, she was going to be prom queen, of course, and her husband is the prom king. Now, Veronica also is known for her Post-it notes, and she likes to start the day with a loud clap. I'm not sure her teenage sons love that about her, but I think she's awesome. All right, next we have explorers. Explorers are people who really love knowledge. Maybe some of you are explorers. They also love to experience things. So these are our world travelers and our book readers. And you can think about some famous explorers. One modern day one was Anthony Bourdain. And of course, he had his show, Parts Unknown. Now, explorers can also be known to say things like, let's go on an adventure, which I know I sometimes feel like I say a lot. Now, I don't have to watch TV because I have my friend Jose, and Jose likes to do everything, as you can see. He likes to go skiing and scuba diving and snowboarding and everything you could think of. And he actually has over 4 million American airline miles, okay? And 245,000 of those he did in 1 year. Now, Jose also loves flying so much that he has his own pilot's license. All right. So he likes to do lots of things. Now, I know what you're thinking, guys. F this guy, right? Yeah. So why don't we watch Jose just wipe out, and just a little satisfying for us. Okay. Thank you, Jose. I love you, but that was good to watch. All right, now we have our jokers. Jokers are people who like to have fun through silliness and nonsense, right? They're obviously people who are like our comedians in our world, like a Dave Chappelle. So we have jokers, often class clowns. I was not one of them, but on my Facebook feed, I see a lot from Yamil. So Yamil is actually Emmy winning, and he's an actor and writer. I actually met him back in the mid 2000s when he was a pair of nuts, part of a comedy duo. And now you can catch him. He has a telenovela parody called Bodega de Pasión. There's 15 episodes of that on his website. And you can also catch him working with the Miami Heat and then some local commercials as well. And he sent us a little bit about quarantine life from his dog's perspective. Oh, where did it go? I lost control. There we are. So this is Anna. I think we can all relate to Anna right about now. All right, now we have our kinesthetes. Kinesthetes are people who enjoy movement. So often athletes who really love just the physicality of a sport more so than a competition are kinesthetes. And they can also be people who are dancers, like the famous sibling duo of Julianne and Derek Huff. Now, one of the kinesthetes that I know is my friend Morgan. You could see in her book cover that she loves movement, and you could see that she's the kind of person who smiles with her whole entire body. Now, in addition to riding on top of unicorns, she also likes to do goat yoga and flying trapeze. So you could see Morgan really loves life and has a good time. Our last category, we're already here, is the storytellers. Now, storytellers are people who enjoy life through engaging in stories. So they could be writers and also watch stories. And Jim Henson was a great example of that with his world that he created with the Muppets. Now, one of my friends is one of the best storytellers I know is Asia. And I met Asia when he was down here, living down here, lives in North Florida now, but he was part of the Miami poetry spoken word scene. And he was actually a deaf poet on HBO back in the day. Now he is the highest booked poetry act in all of the college market. Kudos to him. And if there's anybody who could tell a story in 15 seconds, it is him. So let's listen.
Welcome to Haiku Sessions, dedicated to the pandemic with Asia Sampson. 2020. You are like my ex-girlfriend. Exciting, but crazy.
Thank you, Asia. So you can listen to more of his haikus on his YouTube account. So why am I telling you all of this? Well, I wanted you to see some shining examples of people who really excel at their play personality. They don't do this intentionally in a sense of knowing that this was their play personality, but they know who they are and they embrace it. And that's why they're such happy, joyful, and successful people. So now that you know what the play personalities are, which one do you think you are? Which do you feel you can better embrace so that you can benefit from play? Remember that play boosts your mood, right? It strengthens your body and your friendships. It reduces stress and anxiety. So those sound like great things for me to engage in, and I'm sure you do too. You know, I work every day with children through play, so I see the benefits of play all the time. And I look at the research and see how it benefits not just children, but also adults, particularly adults who are engaging in playful ways, not only in their home life, but in their work environments as well. So I want you to think about, what part of your day are you being playful? What can you do tonight that you can implement tomorrow so that you have a more playful day? and that you can have this benefit as well. If you are looking for more information on play, this is the book that I was referencing. It's called Play: How It Shapes the Brain, Opens the Imagination, and Invigorates the Soul. So you'll learn about play deprivation consequences in there, also the properties of play, and those play personalities as discussed. If you prefer a visual presentation, I have a small video on my YouTube channel that also explains these as well if you need a recap. But until then, I love for you to come check me out if you like. I do a lot of videos on play-based learning for parents, helping them on my Play AP channel. But most of all, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. I'm really excited. I've been to Nerd Night several times, and I'm glad to finally be participating. And I hope that you really get something out of this presentation, something big or small that helps you have a more playful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Amy. So if you have questions for Amy, send them over. I think we already had one that I saw. Is there a website where we can look at these different types of play personalities, or maybe a quiz online to find out?
That's a great question. I think there may be a quiz out there. It didn't include it in the book as far as I could see. And I haven't taken it personally. I think for me, it was just easy just to kind of know who I was. Now, I'm someone who can identify with all the play personalities myself. I can see different parts of myself, but I know really strongly where I sit. So I think sometimes you just think about like what makes you the happiest. You can kind of figure that out. But I don't know if there's like a research test like the same as like a wealth dynamics or something like that, or like the 5 love languages. I'm not sure about that. But there is, like I said, a video. If you want to go to my YouTube page, I do have a video where I explain these again in a little bit different detail and give you some scenarios on how you can apply it differently with your life, especially if you want to incorporate your child into it. But otherwise, you can get the book, and there's also the book on Audible if you're someone who prefers to listen rather than read.
Someone is asking, am I broken? I don't do any of these play things.
I think that's not true. I think if people really look at it, they might see how they might do those things. Like, I'll give you a small example. As a collector, like I really identify with the artist creator person, and I'm an explorer for sure. But when I go on a trip, I usually buy jewelry as like a memento of something on the trip. So I collect jewelry in that way. And I also have like these ceramic dolls that I got from different countries. So it's just a little way to kind of be, have a little playfulness on my trip. It's like looking for these objects. So there's different ways that people incorporate play. I think you just have to kind of look around and see what you're doing. But if you really feel like none of these are happening, you're not broken. I wouldn't go as far as saying that, but it is something that you may want to think about because, maybe you need a little bit more of that to bring yourself happiness. Or maybe you are really happy and you just haven't identified with it yet. And then look and see what really makes you happy. And maybe that'll tell you, more how you like to play.
Thank you so much, Amy, for that. And I think, someone is asking, what about compulsive gamblers? How do they fit in those categories?
Oh, oh my goodness. Well, I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know that for sure. I imagine that they're probably a competitor on some level because they like, the money aspect of it or accounting and things like that. So, just like there's things that are, if you do too much of something, it's unhealthy. That's the same thing when it comes to play. I mean, and actually he talks about this in the book as well. There's people who become addicted to video games. So there's a difference between it being play and something else. And play usually is something that is very like voluntary and fun and loose, and it doesn't necessarily have a lot of meaning behind it. But if you are if it's becoming addictive in some way, or not good for your life, then it's no longer play, it's something else. So it's kind of like the thing about the mindset, right? It's not exactly what you're doing, but if you're having a playful mindset while doing it. I don't know if compulsive gambling is necessarily playful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's one last question. This is a good question. Is there more of an importance on a more physical play? For instance, playing video games for a competitor versus going outside?
For a competitor? I don't think so. I mean, I think it's just whatever you feel. I think that was one of the important messages that I hope came across, is that it's not so much what you're doing, but if you're having a playful mindset while doing it. Some people just aren't movers, right? So they're not going to want to be playing physical sports, but they may like just relaxing by playing a video game or a board game or something like that. That's why I didn't want to use an example of someone who does video games for the competitor, because Giselle likes to just run, for her, that is joyful for her, whereas Rampi's like, he's collecting Lego. He's not necessarily playing with it. He just likes to collect it. Like for him, it's fun to kind of, like he said exactly that it felt like for him, like when he goes to a casino, it's like a little bit of a thrill for him to just kind of play around, buying these stocks and real estate. I mean, that's a little extreme. But these are supposed to be examples of people who really are into their world, right? So yeah, it really just is a matter of what feels right to you. So someone who, some people hate to bake, and some people love to bake so much that they then go and create their own companies, and that becomes their career. And then so a lot of times I think people, when they feel like they're working so much, they don't really identify enough of the play in their world, or they're not incorporating it enough into their world. So you don't necessarily have to go work at your play, but if you find ways to do it, even if it's simple little things, like maybe you're changing the way your desk looks and you're incorporating little things that you love at your desk, you can make your environment at work more engaging and playful for you. And then you're going to take that happiness throughout your day more. That make sense?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you so much, Amy. That was wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you.